Welcome to Coding with Tom. Today we're going to be using UI Collection View Compositional Layout to build a layout similar to what we see in the App Store in iOS 13. We'll be doing it for iPhone and iPad. For this section, we will be creating parts of the App Store. We will start with these banners here. So here we will be showing just some banners that I downloaded regarding furniture. Here we will be showing the stores, or this section, the what says iPhone Starter Kit. We will be presenting here stores. Then we will be replicating this kit zone. So here we will be we will just be presenting some featured products. We will also replicate this part with top categories where we have kind of a list where we have an icon and then an option, which we will be calling quick links. First, we will create our new scene, which I will be calling feed. We will go back to this view controller later. Before adding our view controller here, you will notice that our scene has gotten a little bit big. We are starting to get a little bit crowded here just with so many view controllers. For this, I'm going to be refactoring the entire order. The entire order scene here, we're going to pass it to another storyboard, just so we can clean up this view. The tab bar items here may bug out a little bit, but when you run, everything works as expected. Now I want my feed to be the first tab, as this will be the first section that will be open every time the user opens the app. For this, we just need to drag it. Then the second one will be the order, and the first one the stores. I'm not going to be creating a model for this one, since the model for the stores already exists, but the other ones we may not be using. We might not be having a future use for those ones, so we will just be creating the view model. So for that, we're going to be creating FeedItem. So we'll be having two things here. The first one will be feed section. So this will be one section, this will be another. And what I'm expecting from our section would just be a name. It's going to be a string optional. It may not have a title like this first section. Now, why am I creating protocols and not structs? That's because each section is going to be different, and each item is also going to be different. So this has an image, title, subtitle, and well, as you can see, it can be an app. This one has no option there, and our top categories here just have an icon and a name. It has no subtitle. So we'll be creating different structs to that, but we will be referencing them with the protocol. This will become very important later on. This is what we have. So we will have the banner section, then we have the store section, then the feature product section, and then the object section. Notice that on each of the sections for any items I'm returning an array of different type, but because I'm using the protocol, which all of the items conform to, I can get away with it. Let's create a view model. For this one, I already created a snippet. So here we'll have the banner section. For the store section, we are actually using the store service. The other ones are just hard-coded values that we're not even going to get for from a service for now. We're going to be using new images. So we'll have images for the banners, for the stores, which we didn't have before, and for the feature products. Okay, and we're ready. Let's comment out this for now. We will just be dealing, yeah, so we will just be dealing with the banner section for now. Let's first get to draw this one, and then we'll add the other ones. The good thing about always using the protocol feed section is that I can add different sections in whatever order, and I will be able to pass them onto the view controller without any issue. That's the advantage of using protocols. Now let's add our UI collection view and start drawing the layout. For For the data source, we're not going to be doing anything different. We just assign ourselves as the data source. We're going to get the number of sections, the number of items from our view model. And for our cell, we're going to address this later, but we're going to have to implement a different cell for each section. As you can see here, the cells are very different. The banner from the iPhone starter kit, from this one, from the options here. But for now, let's focus on this. We're not going to be adding a delegate. This is so far what we're going to do. And here in our feed collection view, we're going to be adding a different layout. Now, we could be adding a section, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a section provider. And what this does is we just pass in a closure where we will be building each of the sections, where we are going to be telling this is the first section, it will scroll to the right, it will occupy this space. This is the other section, it divides into these 3 rows, and it also scrolls to the right, and so on. And for each of these, we need to return a section. Then we just assign this to the collection layout, and then we can just reload the data. So again, the only different thing here is instead of using the delegate, we're going to be using this compositional layout. I could be using casting for this because, again, depending on what section I get, the banner section, the store section, the feature section, the option section, I'm going to be getting different stuff. There's a different way here when you have polymorphism. That is when you have a lot of structs that conform to the same protocol. So by that, I can get away, for example, with this. I can just get the section for the items. It doesn't matter which of the structs was. I know that it has items because that's what the protocol has. But here, I need to know exactly which section I am on to know what layout section I need to pass by. So instead of having a huge switch with casting or an if, and having a big method that does a lot of things, I'm going to be using a design pattern called visitor. For now, let's just return here an empty section. So our visitor will have a function to visit each of the different types. That will be one function to visit the section, the banner section, the store section, the feature product section, and the option section. Also, it will have an associated type, since we can have different instances where we're gonna, depending on the section we visit, we're gonna be creating different stuff. So sometimes I may visit a section, in this example, to create an NS layout section, but in different cases, I may want to react to what happens if I tap on a section or something. Likewise, when we have an item, we need to know which of the items is to know which cell to return. So we'll also create a visitor protocol for those ones. Then we go to our structs and we're going to be implementing this. So now our protocol, the FeedItem, we do have one function, which is to accept a visitor.
Same goes for our section.
Again, it returns the outcome depending on the implementation, that's different. You also now have a bunch of errors, but here's where the magic comes. Here's where you avoid having a big switch statement or if-let case. So here for the banner section, for example, we just have this. And in the accept, the banner section is the one that tells the visitor to visit a banner. And it passes itself. And let's do it for the other sections. And there we have it. This is a very elegant solution. This is not a pattern that I made up myself. This is a very old design pattern and very powerful one. You can go to source making. This is a webpage that I like a lot. There are a lot of behavioral patterns. One of these is the visitor. This is an object design pattern. Again, it doesn't just apply to Swift, it applies to a lot of other languages. I recommend you to definitely check this website. Before visiting all of these items, let's first create the views. This is going to be very easy. There's nothing to review here, so I'm going to go pretty fast here without explaining anything. I'm just going to be using stocks and auto layout. Now that we have all of our cells, I'm also going to be creating a header, which will be this title here. For our header, we're going to be using a UI collection reusable view. Let's register all of these views that we just created in the collection view with its identifiers. Now that we have registered the cells, let's do our first visit, which will be here. So here we will be getting the item. Notice here, I just have a feed item. I don't know which type of item it is, so that's what we're going to visit. For this, we will be creating a class. We'll do the visiting part after adding this here. And what are we going to return? We're going to be visiting the item, which we do it to the accept method that we created for the protocol, and it's going to be accepting the visitor, which we already established. It will be our feed collection view cell factory. In just 3 lines, without having to do any switch statements, I'm going to return a UI collection view cell for each type. And here it will be much easier to organize since we'll just be having different methods for each of the one. Now, it doesn't know the outcome because it's an associated type. I need to declare it. One way to declare the outcome is here to do it explicitly and say we're going to be returning a UI collection view cell, or we can let the system infer it by just adding that as a return type, then the compiler will know that it's going to be returning UI collection view cell for the other ones. And here we'll just do the same for each one. Notice that now in the auto completion, it knows that it's going to return a UI collection view cell. For our supplementary view, we will not be doing it through a visitor since it's just the same view for each of the sections. Now that we are done with the cells, let's address here our collection layout. Right now, we actually can't draw the collection view because we haven't specified a correct layout section for this. So let's create another factory that will be visiting the sections, and for each one of the visits, it will be returning an NS collection layout section. And here again, what we're returning is our section, accepting the visitor. Let's start with the banner. So what we have here, this part of Disney, what we will have is this will be our group, meaning our cells will be, each of the items needs to be contained in our group, and our group will be almost all of the width of the section. Notice here that the other cell is starting. So it will be almost all of the width and all of the height of the section. What we need to start first is the size of the item. Now, the size of the item, it will be occupying all of the width and all of the height of the group. With the item, we can create the group. The group also needs a size. It can be the same as the item, but as we saw in the example, it will not be. So it will have, let's add a 0.9 of the dimension, and the height will be, let's add an estimated, let's try with 300 points. So that will be our group. And then with the group, we can return our section. Now, as the user scrolls, we don't want it so that when the user scrolls, it can see only, let's say, half of this and half of the other one. For that, we can modify the scrolling. And for that, we have group paging, meaning that with every scroll, it will stop on the next group. If you scroll, it won't leave each one in the middle, it will just move to the nearest one. Let's try running with this. Here we go. So when I scroll, you can notice that if I stop, it scrolls to the nearest one. We need to fix here some height since you can see only the title is appearing, not the subtitle. Now the image is the one that gets shrinks instead of this label. So let's move on to the next one. So here, what we will have is in each of our groups, we have 3 items, and this will also scroll horizontally, and it also has a title. So here we do need the header. For this, I'm going to be creating a convenience variable. As with the layout item, this has a size. Notice the difference here. The fractional height is 0.3. The fractional width is not going to be of the group is not going to be the entire section. We're also going to be having some spacing between the groups. And our supplementary views, we can provide both a header and a footer. For this one, we're just going to be providing the header, which will be the title. Let's also go to our view model and enable the store section. Let's try running with this. And here we have it. We could actually even give more space here. So let's add this width to be 9. Yep, a little bit more similar. Notice how we have 3 items, and because this is continuous scrolling, when I stop, the view stops scrolling and doesn't just move to the next group. Now let's go with our kid zone here. Here, again, the group just has one of the items vertically, and we're going to be scrolling horizontally. Let's enable our featured products. So here, it's pretty much straightforward. Instead of adding 90% of the width, I'm adding 45 since almost two complete items and a little bit of the third one are visible. Let's try running with this. I forgot to highlight now our title is appearing. For the first one, nothing. Now let's go to our last one, which is a list. But again, this is just one group, and in the group we just have one item. Pretty much the same. It occupies the entire width, and we just have one item because that's what we have in that list-like section. And here we have it. The icons are all that can be improved here, so we could add a little bit of padding. And let's try just aligning this. No, much better. Now, this is what we have for iPhone. We're pretty much done here. Now let's check for iPad. Now, although we do have everything being laid out for iPad and it works, this is not ideal. Let's bring up the views from the App Store on iPad. If you can see, we have a very different layout to iPad. Here, the banners, we can now fit almost 3 on the same row. Same goes for the second section here. We can now see 3 sections. Let's go down to the featured products. You can see almost 1, 2, 3. We see 5 and almost a 6th one. And here in the links, we have 2 per row. So how can we make that our compositional layout adapts to the kind of size that it has? Now for that, in our builder of the compositional layout, we are provided with the environment. Here in the environment, what we have, this is a NS collection layout environment. In the environment, we can find the trait collection where we can find the horizontal size class. And with this, we could be varying the height and width of our layout. Now, how are we going to pass it to the visitor? We need to enhance the section visitor by adding another associated type, which will be data. Again, because the visitor can be used for many other instances with just one protocol, we just need to add this here, and then with type inference, we can use the data. If some class doesn't need the additional data, you can just make this void and just ignore the attribute. And in our view controller, when we are visiting here, we can pass the data, the environment. Now, it is obviously going to complain because we haven't specified that associated type, but we can add it here. We are expecting an NS collection layout environment. And now we can add this data to modify our layout. Now with the collection layout view environment, we can proceed to modify our item size depending on the width. So here, if you can see the comparison, we have almost 3. So if it is regular width, the size of the group will be 35% instead of 90. And the spacing between the groups is much bigger. So that's why we are adding a 24. Now for our options, we'll be doing a little bit more changes since not only the width is decreasing, but now we have more items per group. Now let's try running with this. And now we can see we have a much nicer view. We have now two, let's compare it side by side. Our banners, now we have more on screen, we're using more efficiently all of this size. We have almost three groups here, same goes here. Our featured products are similar to the kids zone. We have the sixth one here right on the edge. And our options, we have 2 on the same line. And that was all for today. I hope you like UI compositional layout. For me, it was definitely very fun implementing all of this with a single collection view, not having to worry that much with the delegate methods. On iOS 14, there's also diffable data source, which saves a lot of time and has a lot of cool new features. Eventually, we will be implementing that one as well. See you next time. Bye.